Hi, everyone, and welcome to the PA podcast. Here we are, episode 3, with our very own Adam Reid.
Let's go. I like PA podcast.
You like it, right?
I like that name. Not bad.
You know what? When I chose the name, there was a reason behind it. Obviously, it's my initials.
Of course.
There is that, but it's also public announcement.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't see it that way. Yeah, that's kind of.
So I figured, let's try to keep it. You know what I'm saying?
You're always thinking outside the box. That's what
I try.
That's actually one of the things I really, really like about you. It's not just your work ethic, but you're always trying shit. Oh, by the way, are we allowed to swear on this podcast? Yeah, all right, we're good. So,
you know what?
We're good. I can drop the F-bombs too, because I'll tell you, man, it's going to get heated in here. I'll tell you, so brace yourself. But no, I was just going to say, you always tried new shit. You were always avant-gardiste. You've always, and regardless if it did well or not, you've always been the one to just be like, I'm going for it. I'm trying it. Whether it's video content in the real estate space, whether it's the way you're presenting a home and you package your videos, whether it's the behind the scenes of management between life and work-life balance, which I think everybody appreciates, that transparency and that openness. So yeah, man, I think it's really cool that you've always been forward thinking in that space, and it's actually one of the reasons why I want to come out and support the podcast. I want to be able to give you that support. You deserve it. You work hard, and people love you and respect you. So
I definitely appreciate it, man. And you know what? I'll tell you, like, when I had started with all this, and whenever, and I still say this, so every time I'm trying something new, you're always going outside the box, yes, but also you're going outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, which is where the growth happens.
Right? At least we try.
Yeah,
right.
Which I'm convinced that that's where the growth happens. Right. You have to do it. You have to do that.
I mean, you're in that world. I know that that's something. And you know what? I've seen you transition through so many different things.
Yeah, man. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm going to be honest with you. And everybody asks me that question, like, what are you? Like, what do you do? I'm sorry, Adam. I don't follow. And then I try and take a second, and I'm like, man, like, what do I do? And I realized that...
Jack of all trades.
Well, this is it. I knew you were going to say that. I was just about to say that. So there was a phase in my career. So just to take a step back. I come from a theater background. I come from a performance background. I always wanted to be an actor. I always saw myself as being somebody that, loved performing. Ever since I was a kid, I loved performing and putting on the shows at Christmas and birthday parties. And I was that kid, the middle child, of course.
Yeah.
And as soon as that started, then I went into hosting and TV hosting and live hosting and corporate hosting, and then acting, voiceovers, motion capture, spokesperson, ambassador, internal comms, like just so many different avenues. And for a specific moment in time in my career, I believe that a jack of all trades was really good to be, because it was just opening up doors everywhere. But then as you grow and as you sort of climb the success ladder, you realize that the excellence level and the requirements of excellence needs you to be specifically focused in one area, right? So you go to a restaurant for Italian food, you're not asking for anything else other than the best plate of pasta in town. Mm-hmm. You don't care what the rest of the menu looks like. You don't care if they have the best anything. You're going there specifically because it's a grandma that owns it. She's got 30 years of experience. She knows how to prepare it. So I think there was a period in time where I was spread out a little bit too much, and then zeroed in on a few key areas of my career. And the whole jack of all trades, master of none was a real thing. And that's truth. And I realized, and I started respecting that. I was always in the business side of things.
So you started to specialize.
I started to specialize, and I'm like, damn, like, I got to put in these reps.
Yeah.
And I was always like a kid that always weaseled his way, whether it was talking to the teacher for a passing grade, whether it was hustling the neighbor to cut their lawn to get enough money to rent a video game. Like, I've always been this kid that's always weaseled. But when I got to the point where I'm like, damn, like, excellence has a cost.
Yeah.
It really does. Like, you cannot skate around excellence. You got to put the reps in. You have to be paying attention to detail. You need to be dialed in. You need to be focused. You need to be in the right headspace. So I think that changed. And once that unlocked, that's when ultra growth happened.
Yeah.
I went into super growth, and I've never looked back. And now I realize, and I'm teaching that to my kids too, where it's like, I was always about effort.
We're still at 3?
Still at 3, yeah. We stayed there. We stayed there, man.
I see you, there's a new one, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, we see each other, yeah. No, we're good, man. We're good. The kids are great. I make it a point, man, it's fascinating how much you can plant and I don't want to say brainwash, but you can reinforce, just like you can reinforce on the negative side of a child, right? I'll give you a classic example of a father telling a daughter that she's eating too much, right? And I think you've had a little bit, like, because she's a little bit heavy, right? So the father will say something like, hey, like, maybe it's enough that you have, maybe we'll give you some fruit or whatever. Like, you don't get the impact that has in the development of a growth of a child. And then this person, you know, ages and becomes a teenager, and they're wondering why they have these self-esteem issues, and they don't know where it comes from, right? So what my point is the reverse is also powerful, is by planting seeds of motivation, by planting seeds of ultra growth, by planting seeds of nothing is impossible. Let's go get it. Let's put in the reps. Let's work together. We're a unit. We're a family. Like, I think it's so powerful to be able to do that.
It's a really important point you bring up, because you need to be able, and as a father these days especially, I feel like we're trying very hard, and honestly, the first episode I was trying not to really go too much into this. Right? But honestly, it's really difficult these days to be a father. And to raise men. Is this true?
Yeah, I
mean, don't try to be flippant.
No. You know me, man. I don't play that card.
The reality is that these days, I feel like there is a lot out there. And honestly, I also don't like this, personally, this whole new rhetoric of allowing children to just explore on their own, do whatever, and not guide them. I disagree with it. I think that this is a very real thing right now, where everyone's like, let the child kind of go on his own, do whatever he has to do, and whatever he does, say nothing. What is my role as a parent if I'm not there to guide my children? I might as well throw in the kid in the deep end of a pool and just leave. Like, isn't that the case?
I think it's a fair statement. I think there we are navigating. It's the most complex time for a man to be raising children. There's no question. It's not even close. It was very simplistic 30, 40 years ago. Even 20 years ago, it seemed very simplistic. There was a very clear role. It was a defined role. We work as a unit. Now the roles have been interchanged. The roles have really sort of mixed in with one another. You've got women that are working. You have men that are working. You have people that are not communicating.
Which is 100% fine.
Which is fine. But there is an opportunity cost to that, right? I know a lot of couples that are working a lot. I know a lot of couples that both people are working, and there's no stability in the household. No. There's no communication at home. There's no eating together. One of the things I'm really, really proud of is we eat as a family every night. It's a really big milestone for me. Every single night I'm home and I have supper with my family. The only reason why I would not be there is if I'm hosting an event, which typically during weekdays is not really common. But it's about being present. And 90% of the issues that come with raising a family or raising children, I really do sincerely believe disappear when you're present. And I'm part of a mentorship group, and I really like always being 10 years ahead and having mentors that are 10 years older, and they've changed through the years. When I was 20, I had 30-year-olds. When I had 30, I had 40-year-olds, and now I'm in the 55 age group, or 53 age group. And I meet with them once a month, and it's 4 gentlemen that I know, and I've met them through different circles, and they actually got to meet because of this mentor program. And I ask them all the time, like, what's the biggest regret? Like, what's the issue here? What do I have to be paying attention on when I turn 50 or when I turn 53? And I can tell you 95% of those men are saying, I fell into the trap of thinking that the more I provide for my family, the happier the family will be. Mm-hmm. And we all made that mistake. And it's like, me, yeah. And I'm like, you guys all made that same mistake. And says, Adam, we didn't come from an ill-willed position. We didn't want to do this on purpose. We just thought that if we go into this super growth, if we provide for a family, we give them those trips, we give them the beautiful lifestyle, we give them the family vacations, we give them the private school, the Marianopolis College, and the cars. And, I was there and I was present. We give them great education and great support and great this, that they would look back and say, thank you. And the reality is that half of them, 2 out of those 4 men, do not have a really good relationship with their teenage son or daughters because they were not present.
I think it's important. Look, I believe in balance in everything.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. You know what? We always try as parents to provide things that we didn't necessarily have.
Yeah.
Right? We're trying to, and you know what is that, living by association or whatever it is. I don't know, but I think that the reality is that also these days you're trying, even now for us, we're trying to detach, we're trying to do things, we're trying to teach them, we're trying to have them explore. I think travel is also extremely important for the growth of the child. So, you're trying to balance those things, but to your point, you don't want children to become, to expect
right
on a regular. You want them to also work hard.
Yeah, I make sure he knows where he comes from, man. Like I make sure my kids know. I make sure they know how hard the grind has been, and we've never, one of the things I appreciate about the setup we have is that they really don't take anything for granted. They really don't. We've done a great job. We've provided a really good life for them. They live in a gorgeous home. We have a quality of life that is incredible compared to the people we have around us. But they're very humble. They're very down to earth. I see, yeah, it is. And I see the small things, but we do that every night. We reinforce that every single night. But the point I wanted to make was more of like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to give our kids what we didn't have. It's wrong if the opportunity cost outweighs what they're getting. And I'm not just talking about material things. I'm not talking about just things that we're giving them. Just everything from the house they live in, from the barbecues they have to the parties they have. There has to be that balance that you speak of. And I think I've always been really, really in control of that balance.
Yeah.
Until recently.
That's our role.
It is. Until recently where now I'm going into super growth. And there is a real cost to super growth. And this is the first time in my life that I'm looking at this and I'm like, damn, like to be the best and to grow a company and to launch a company and to grow something from the ground up takes sacrifice. And it's a big sacrifice on family, sacrifice on myself, my personal time.
That's reality.
But it's still a big cost. It's still a big cost. Like it's a big cost for excellence,
There's also, there's also time to do things.
Yeah.
And the opportunity cost also exists on the flip end. So if you're not able to capitalize on that, that becomes an issue too. Because it also not providing, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but also not being able to give a certain level to your children where they seek it. You don't want to be in that position either. So obviously there is a balance, but there is also the fact that of growth. And now you're talking about super growth. Yeah. Which to achieve that will take sacrifice. Obviously you want to mitigate it. You don't want the sacrifice to be too large. Especially when children are...
Yeah, but it always is. It always is. That's what I'm starting to realize. Like, there's no...
absolutes.
Well, okay, fine. I nor do I. So fine, you're right. It's not always, but very often there is. It's a big cost.
You have to be able to mitigate that.
Yeah, and like I get now why entrepreneurs start in their 20s. 100. And I understand why they do it in their 30s.
Yeah.
And I understand why they've established their businesses by the age of 40 or 45 in a best case scenario. Not always, but in a best case scenario, because then you're able to delegate. Then you're able to manage. Now you're project managing more than actually launching and doing all the day-to-day minutia. So doing this at my age and starting this now there's a big cost related to it, right? Which is a production studio that I'm speaking of.
You're starting, maybe you're evolving now, I think is what heard, right? So because I've seen you through all these years, I've seen you through your acting days, I've seen you through your talk show
hosting,
right? Read Between the Lines, which I found was a fantastic name.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
right? That was amazing.
They got pretty plastered on that one. With that name. I was just plastered. I'm like, man, Read Between the Lines, man. Everybody loved it. Yeah,
it was so good.
Yeah, it's gonna come back. I'm gonna make that a comeback.
Your passion for sports, was also and you could see that. You could see that you really enjoyed it. And you know what? I feel as time goes on, we evolve. We want to do different things. Right now I'm doing this podcast. I'm doing the podcast because I want to I want to challenge myself with certain things. Obviously, and I say this too, it is difficult to be in front of a camera. It's difficult. People don't believe that. And look, how many minutes did it take for us just to get in the rhythm today, right? Yeah. But you know what? We do it. You're a lot more comfortable in front of the camera because you're doing this kind of...
Yeah, I love it. I get nervous when I'm not on camera. Everyone asks me, when I get on stage, like, are you nervous? Like, do you ever get the... I'm like, no, I don't. I get nervous when the phone's not ringing or nothing's happening. But yeah, man.
It's a different type of nervous.
It's a different type of nervous. Yeah. But this is where, being an artist... So what I can tell you is being an artist is like a diary entry.
Yeah.
And that diary entry is not meant for anybody else.
No.
It's meant for you. right? Now, if the audience gravitates to it, then fantastic. But I've never produced and I've never made movies with the audience being the end user.
Absolutely.
I never have.
I agree with you 100%.
And I think it's really important that if you're an artist, that you stay true to that you really stay true to, why am I creating this? And I'm legitimately creating this because I believe this is a beautiful story. Yes. I believe that this is truly something that needs to be told. Once that's done, what happens after is a different ball game. Like that's commerce,
yeah.
right? That's business. But I think a lot of people get lost today, especially on social media, where they're trying to please the audience. They're trying to create content. They're trying to put stuff out there that is just not genuine. That's really just not them, but they're doing it for the sake of growth or super growth or for the wrong reasons, right? So art is very, very, it's very, very personal. It's very, very unique. And I think the more you tap into, and you hear this all the time, right? Well, even when we're in high school, or maybe not you, but in my case, it was always like, Adam, just be you.
Yeah.
Just like, stop pretending to be like somebody. And I was like, but I'm not pretending. I'm like, yeah, but you're not being your authentic you. And I was like, but I am. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, I know who you are. You're not. And you're always, and then I started thinking recently, now that I'm producing films with Reframe Studios, you know, you were talking about doing things because you love them and do them for the right reasons. So I believe that art is like a diary entry. I really do believe that. And that diary entry is very personal. Mm-hmm. It's for me. It's for me, right? I do it for me. So it's no different with art. When a painter sits in front of a canvas and starts painting, they really do it to do the best that they feel they can do it justice. And they really don't care about whether it gets sold or not. Obviously, you have to make a living, so you have to think about the business side of things. But if you're...
But it shouldn't be the main concern.
Well, exactly. If your main concern is that, then you're in the business of commerce.
Yeah. And it's not,
you're not in the business of art. And as an artist, you do it for yourself first.
Ironically, if you're in the business of commerce and that is your end goal, oftentimes it doesn't actually render the dividends that it needs to.
No, but on the flip side, if you have the right approach, though, like I always say, there's a difference between the acting business and the business of acting.
Right.
Like, it's two different businesses, right? You could be extremely gifted and study Meisner and method act and go to the New York Dramatic School of Dramatic Arts.
Are you a method actor?
I'm not. No. So this is where I'm getting at, is I'm on the business side.
You're on the business.
I'm like I said.
Adam Reid.
I'm always.
You're the business game.
I'm the business game, man. Like, I will work the back channels.
It's not all about the dollars.
It's not all about the dollars. It's more about just refusing a no. I don't like no's. I just don't like no's. No's are very final. No's are very, they're quick to come, and I've always used that as motivation in this business. So I think there's a big difference between the acting business and the business of acting, and I think it's really important that when you do something like this, especially a podcast, that you do it for the right reasons. You put out what you're proud of. Then the byproduct becomes, if people like this podcast or gravitate to this podcast, great. But that was never the intent.
Sure. I mean, being proud of it is one thing. One of the reasons why I started it, in all transparency, is because it forces me also to be put in a position where I am in and of itself trying to get more information for myself. I'm trying to learn more. And in learning more and have those discussions, I'm sitting with Adam Reid. I know I have to, touch up on my motivational side a little bit, right? Because Adam Reid is
man, I love that. I love that, man. Let's talk about
He's
that.
About that peak performance.
Oh, man.
And and as you know, I've always dabbled into that world a little bit. And because I do believe that we need, first of all, to inform ourselves more, to do things. And if you don't make and take certain moves, then you can be rendered complacent. You can become complacent to the point where you're like, I'll do it tomorrow. You start to put off a lot of things. Now I have my podcasts booked. And believe you me when I tell you that there are days where those podcasts are booked and I might not necessarily feel like I'm in the zone. And then I come here and you know what, you get into that zone, you see your buddy, you start having those discussions, and it's a lot of fun. But it's not about the fun, it's also about what I'm learning in the process. Because realistically, maybe we wouldn't make the effort to be together today if it wasn't for that, right? So it gives me an excuse to do that. And oftentimes I'm trying to learn more. So these are the things that I'm trying to do. And at the same time, yeah, we're having fun with it. You have content that you're creating, and you know what, you're shooting the shit with your friends, right? And that's what I'm trying to really do. And to your point, I've never, you know me, and everybody knows, I've never been someone else on camera than I am off camera. What you see is what you get. That's what I think. A lot of my audience are my friends, they're my circle. A lot of times, I'm not necessarily trying to go and get new this or new that or new this. My business has been word of mouth. There's a reason why I've tried to maintain that, because that's, first of all, been one of the most potent things for my business. And it's not just because I'm giving the quality out. It's because my network, the people who are there, the people who are like me, and it's very organic, it's very natural. I have those relationships with my clients because they all turn out to be friends, one way or another, because they're all kind of interconnected somehow. So even though I welcome every client, and over the years I've had new clients who were outside of this scope, and yes, social media has had that impact and that presence, and yeah, I'm having fun with it. But the podcast to me was something that will force me into a corner, will force me to get myself uncomfortable, will force me to educate myself more on certain topics, because I'm not an expert in all topics, right? And I know that you're really big in the peak performance world, in the motivation world, and that is something I think a lot of us these days need. I'm not saying that everyone is depressed. What I'm saying is that right now I feel everybody is kind of in their head. No one's trying to, what I've noticed, at least in real estate, dealing with these big transactions, is everybody's on edge. And people, compared to, and I hate bringing up the pandemic, I hate it, because it's a time that I feel everybody wants to get past. But the reality is that the impact of the pandemic is still ever present. It is.
Well, it changed the world. It changed the world on so many different levels. It changed people too. And I remember having a conversation with a friend, having a conversation about what this new lifestyle was going to look like. Right. And I was convinced that it would be a matter of 3 months before everybody turned back to their old ways. And there were people that were like, no, this is like soul searching stuff, and this is changing the world, and everyone's going to realize the pace that they're working at, it's not good, it wasn't sustainable. And I'm like, no, like people are going to go back. Like the majority of people are going to go back to their old lifestyle and their old ways of doing things. When you talk about people being in their own heads, I think a lot of it's self-sabotage. I really do. I really do believe that a lot of reasons why people find themselves in difficult positions because they put themselves in.
Elaborate.
You look at somebody's financial situation, and you look at somebody telling you that they're paycheck to paycheck, and they are complaining about the cost of inflation and the cost of how things are. Yet, they are still going out on Friday nights to have $300 meals. They are wearing designer clothing. The wife has a designer purse. He drives a moderately expensive car. They spend $1,000 a month at Costco. They travel 3 times a year. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, for a family, just on the Costco side.
Sometimes that's one trip.
Well, yeah, even more on that. But I'm talking about people who are really like financially strapped, right? And I'm looking at this and I'm like, bad decision. They're smoking, they're drinking, they're on sleeping pills, they're overworked, they have anxiety, they're stressed, they have no boundaries, they don't know how to delegate, they're not taking care of themselves, they let go of their social circle, their relationships are falling apart, there's no communication, there's no effort, you look at the list of things that are happening and you realize, they're in this position because they've put themselves in that position many of those times. Now, obviously, you have the cases where people are just sort of victim of circumstance and all that. I get that. But a lot of people these days are making some really bad decisions. They're making bad decisions in real estate. They're making bad decisions in their lives. They're making bad decisions with them.
Reactive.
Well, they're reactive, but
People are reacting.
But let's be honest, like, but they put themselves in that position, right? A lot of the times they put themselves in that position, and that's one of the things that I've had to, like, I've always felt bad. Like, I'm a softie, man. I'm a Cancer, right? Like, I'm tough on the outside, but I'm like inside, I'm a softie. And when I am a softie, and when I see these, like, for years, I was like, man, like, I feel bad for this guy, and like, man, he deserves a break. And then I started surrounding myself with high achievers and people that really were in this peak performance that you're talking about. And they were just calling out for what it is. And like, Adam, like, he's not doing anything to make his case better. Absolutely. And it hurts because sometimes a lot of these people we're talking about, people who are very close to us. Yeah. Some of our best friends. I'm sure you had them where you're looking at the family. Right. And I'm looking and I'm fighting and I'm defending. And no, but you don't understand, you know, his father passed and he was there. And they're like, Adam, it's bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. People need to start focusing on great decision ability. They start saving. They got to be held accountable. They got to live below their means. They have to be fiscally responsible. They have to keep their social circle. They've got to have better communication. They've got to be working more collaboratively. There's so many things that people are doing wrong right now, and I think it's one of the reasons why we see a lot of people around us just not doing well, whether it's on the alcohol side, whether it's on pills, whether it's on, you know, it's just a lot of people are soothing pain.
I mean, that's an issue, definitely. I understand what you're talking about, self-sabotage. I think that we need to see why that's happening more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You're talking about bad decisions, let's say in real estate, bad decisions. I can tell you one or two things about that just on that end, where I say everybody's reactive is because something has shifted. Right now it's the interest rates, right? And suddenly everyone's like panicking. And everyone's like, oh my God, okay, now my payments are doubling. Now it's this, now it's that, you know?
But take a step back, but hold on, let me push back on that. So take a step back.
Yeah.
Before the interest rates were high.
Yeah.
People made the decision to overstretch themselves and buy homes that they could not afford.
True.
All right. So you know a lot of people, as I do, that because the rates were at 1.79%, became, or 1.9, whatever it was very tempting for them to buy $1 million home or a $900,000 home when they did not have the income to support it. They had the income to support it under a market that allows for 2% interest rates, but not the income to support it. If you look at the historical averages, was 4 to 5%, and then no one's. But that's what I mean by, like, nobody's making these decisions. Everybody's knee jerk. Everybody's like, now. I want the car. I want the house. I want the money. I want the travel. I want the gift bags. I want the like. And when you
comes back to being reactive, right? Interest rates are low. Let's go. And this was a time where I never want to go back to that. You know, so many people were saying, you're so lucky you're in real estate. It's you must be making a killing, blah, blah, blah. Whatever I was making, I tell you right now, was not worth it.
Yeah.
All right. And then don't forget, you have to start delegating more. You have to start hiring more.
Yeah.
And at the end, all you have is more stress.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe for a little bit of a better income, but it's not worth the differential past a certain amount, right? Now, to say that people reacted in ridiculous ways, and I remember, and one of the reasons why it was consuming to me is because I was telling people, don't do it. I spoke about this even last time with my last guest, and people do not want to be bullshitted. Sometimes, though, people want to be bullshitted. And it happens.
Yeah.
Where they want to hear that this is the best decision for you. But I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it as it is. And back then, the reason why it took a little bit longer with some of my buyers, because I did not allow them to go past that threshold. I didn't allow it. I said, forget it. We're not going to do this for you. Because I saw what it's going to create for them. And let's also not forget, and I don't want to go into a whole conspiracy thing because it's not a conspiracy thing, it's just economic reality, where governments will make decisions because let's fuel the economy, and then sometimes these are poor decisions where you're continuing to fuel a fire that's already blazing. What's the point of that? And I was very much against that because all it created was more and more and more and more.
Well, it was a short term exciting ride, but we all knew
short term. It lasted 2 years.
No, what I'm saying in terms of the low interest rates, right? It was something that I mean, if you look at over the span of X amount of years, you look at that period of time where it was really engaging for people to buy, and we were in the same position. I remember I was looking at my wife, and I'm like, I don't like this. Like, I don't like this. This feels wrong. This feels off. It is too good to be true. The rates are too low for us to be maximizing out, because one day or another it's gonna come back, and people are gonna want the banks are gonna want their interest rates, and we are gonna be.
The funny thing was is that a lot of my clients for second residences couldn't even qualify on the fixed rate. Variable.
Exactly.
Right. But these were the rules that they had to go through, the mortgage brokers. This was not mortgage brokers who were forcing this. It's go variable because of whatever circumstance we have to get your ratios in line, and only variable will work. Was this an accident where people couldn't fix rates for second residences? No, it wasn't an accident.
No.
And now suddenly at one of the most unprecedented rates of rising interest rates in a year, where interest rates have almost tripled in some cases, right? Well, people are struggling. And then the question ends up being, is this the right decision? And for governments or the central banks to make those decisions to say, okay, well, we added way too much fuel on the fire. Let's now go and
pull back. Well, look, I was talking to an account manager recently, and they're estimating at one of the major financial institutions in the country, they're estimating that 60% in 2025, the average mortgage will be up by 60%. Because the 5-year lock-ins that happened in 2020 during COVID are up for renewal in 2025, max 2026, because that's when the rates started jumping. And in 2025, nobody's exempt. So in 2025, you're going to see the shit hit the fan, unless the banks come in and then they start reducing the rates and they start bringing more buyers into the market. Wow. So there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that are coming. But again, it comes back to, are you able to make sound financial decisions? One of the things that I've been really, really lucky with over my career is I always invested in real estate. It's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to come on and talk to you, because real estate's really big for us. We have a wonderful portfolio that we built over the years, and it's really given me the opportunity to do projects and launch all of these different initiatives, Reid Frame Studios being one of them, because I'm no longer thinking with my pocketbook. I'm thinking with my heart, and I'm doing projects that I really love to do.
That's right.
But
because you're not limited.
Well, I'm not limited,
Or you're not, how should I say, you're not driven necessarily by creating the profit first. It's really now more passion project for you, even though I know you're all business.
I mean, the business side will always be there, but we had one goal, and talking about peak performance, I wasn't always in this mindset, by the way. I was for a long time in a space of no, I don't really have something that special to offer. I know I have the gift of speaking. I know I've got this gift that I need to use somehow, but I wasn't always in this space in my early 20s. I didn't really believe it. And like many people, The Secret was a very big life-changing book for me. And I was really curious. I read that in my late 20s, and I was really curious to see if this was something that I can manifest, or that I can, is it really true? You visualize to materialize, and you manifest things, and you really believe, and you change your mindset, and you're attracting this really good energy that people feel good around you, and they want to collaborate with you, and they want to help you, and they want to give you the work. And I had to put this thing to the test. So at the age of 32, I told my wife that I had a 7-year goal before the age of 40 of paying the house off. And I said, the only way that we're going to see if this works is if I set this goal so big and watch the pieces come together. And it's unbelievable to know that I hit it on January 3rd, because it ended up being a Monday, which is where I could make my final lump sum payment at the age of 40, that we reached that goal and we paid it off and just cleared everything off.
No accident.
It's no accident. It's all intertwined. It's all very much aligned, but you gotta be in the right headspace. You have to be in the space of receiving. You have to be in the space of growth mindset, and just having the right energy around you, and setting that goal that big was huge.
It's not just that, though. I think what it is also is you have a goal, and now whatever's happening around you, you're thinking of it. You're like, okay, well, this has happened. Now you're also pulling.
It's on the radar. Yeah. It's on the radar.
On the radar.
It's on the radar. Everything's on the radar. Everything all of a sudden becomes on the radar. Like, I remember talking to my wife real quick, and she used to travel back and forth to Toronto by plane. And I'm like, by the way, like, do they pay you to travel by car? She says, yeah, they pay me like 59 cents a kilometer. So I'm calculating in my mind, I'm like 1,200 kilometers, Montreal, Toronto, that's $700 plus your. I said, so how many trips can you do a month? And she's like, well, I don't know. I just have to go see clients. I said, so we're doing 2 a month. And she goes, I can't drive. I said, you sit in the passenger seat, you read your book, I'm driving. Because I was looking for any money, anywhere I could find, because that's what you mean by getting it on the radar. So then it was like nightclubs, there was events, there was hosting, there was voice work. That's why I started Jack of all trades. Yeah. Then it became like hosting and motion capture and side projects and voice work. And I'm putting this all together, and we're just slapping money down on the house. And I remember people coming over to our townhouse. We were living in a townhouse in Ville Saint Laurent, and I remember people coming over like, we have no idea how you raise a family of 5 in this house.
Yeah.
Like, it's how? Like, how do you do this? And our answer was very simple. We're like, look, we manage, we do it. We were living way below our means because we wanted to pay the house down because the rates were low.
Yeah.
So by paying my capital down quick, I was bringing it down, and then if ever it jacked up again, I'm like, no problem. And that's exactly what happened during COVID.
100%.
During COVID, I'm like, put my head.
Time is really important too, right? So making money is one thing. Time is our most precious commodity. Mm-hmm. And that whole concept, the whole expression of time is money, is not because you're making money with your time. It's because it's not something you could buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could hire. And that's the whole thing, is that you're hiring, and that's what we're trying to do as business people too. You hire to try to free up time to be able to do other things. But that's a commodity you can't just simply buy.
Yeah.
And so it is precious. And what you do with your time is extremely important. How you're maximizing it is extremely important, not only monetarily, but with your family, to your point. Brush up on that. And it's important to be in that headspace. It's important to wake up with that headspace too. Every morning. And that's something that, at a certain point last year, I caught myself not necessarily doing. I'd wake up in the morning and it's rush, get the kids ready, let's go, go. And at a certain point, I started to think to myself, and you know what, now I'm starting to get anxious. And I'm trying to be like, okay, well, what is it that you're actually worried about? You start to, and at the same time, I didn't read up or listen to a lot of his stuff, but I was listening to Joe Dispenza, right? And one of the things that he told me, not that he told me, but like it's felt that way, right? Was that we're always living in our past too often. You're waking up in the morning and you have some anxiety. Why do you have anxiety? Because you're worried for something that's about to happen. Why are you worried about the thing that's about to happen? Because of a past experience. It could have been an experience like a year ago. It's not just past experiences from each other.
Yeah.
But the reality is that oftentimes we need to be able to focus on the future and the present without allowing the past to cloud our judgment. And that's something that's been so instrumental for me.
Yeah.
Where I'm living day by day, I'm not allowing there is a wisdom thing that comes in with the past, which is 100% valuable.
Yeah.
But you can take the wisdom without reliving certain things.
Yeah, and I think...
And we do that.
I think the takeaway...
Directly, right? We do that without knowing.
We do. And I think what's important to note here, and this is just to layer on what I was saying before, like, you at least made the initiative to hear a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's where we are, is that people aren't even taking the time. They're not even taking the time to access this wealth of knowledge that exists online, because they're more preoccupied watching sports
Yeah.
They're more preoccupied with where the next party is.
Sportsman.
Right? No, but I don't mean that in a negative way. It's all about, it's all a matter of dosing it, right? I love sports, but if sports becomes detrimental to my growth, like there's nothing to talk about. It's not even a question. But I when I hear you speak, or I hear somebody else speak, or I hear my wife that came around and really went into this ultra mindset growth, it takes work.
It takes work.
It takes fucking work. You have to put in your reps. You have to read at night. You have to listen to podcasts. You have to be driving and listening to somebody else speak. You have to watch a podcast. You have to see a different perspective so that at least you are open to changing the way that you do things. But people don't do it. They just don't. And they don't want to put the effort, and they don't want to believe that there's another level. They don't want to believe there's another gear to their growth. And that's why I'm saying I've come from a place of empathy to a place of pointing fingers, of being like, if you're not going to do anything to help yourself, then I cannot be around somebody like that anymore. I've made my decision. I made my peace with it. The people I want to have around me, big-minded people talk ideas.
Yeah.
Small-minded people talk about other people.
Yeah.
And that's the space I want to be in. I want to be surrounded by great people.
If people are receptive to it. And how many times,
but it's not even about being receptive. Even if they are receptive, how many conversations have you had with really close friends of yours where you've shared your blueprint to the letter? You've said, here's what you do, here's how you save, here's what you buy, here's the decision, here's where you put your money, here's how you do it. And it goes in one ear, it goes out the other.
100%, but at least you have to have those conversations. I think that it's important to have those conversations, and if it falls on deaf ears, so be it. And then you do what you have to do.
Right, but isn't your personal bandwidth worthy of something? Wouldn't you rather be sharing that knowledge with someone that's collaborating with you, that's pushing you to be bigger, that's pushing you to be better, that's not holding you back? Oh, Priya, all of a sudden now you're a hotshot real estate broker, and now all of a sudden you don't have time to see the guys anymore. Why would you be surrounded by that kind of energy versus seeing someone you haven't seen in a long time that you might not be a great friend with, but every time sees you and says, hey man, like, I'm really fucking proud of what you've done, and like, it's really cool to see you succeed. And by the way, if there's any way I could support what you're doing, I'm there. I'm here to support. Like, who's to say what is a better energy to be in?
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think that oftentimes there's a lot of people. I mean, we know a lot of people. There's a lot of people around you. You try to have those conversations. You try to guide people. And you know what? I do it once. Wherever I see there's some people who are maybe struggling or whatever it is, I'm not saying I have the perfect formula.
Yeah.
But I do believe that our mindset is everything. Mm-hmm. And how you navigate,
of course,
is everything. And if people are able to understand that, then that's everything too. Now, I'm no expert at it, but one thing is for sure: I'm trying to be better one day after another. I'm trying to do things that are different. I'm trying to.
But you're trying.
Yeah, I'm trying. And you know what? Perspective, to your point, is extremely important. And if we're unable to shift our perspective, or unwilling to shift our perspective, well, that becomes an issue, and then you're stuck, and you will lag behind. Even if I've seen very successful people lag behind 1, 2, 3 years later. Why? Because they were unwanting to evolve. Mm-hmm. We're constantly evolving, and that's, again, as a parent, this is also what we're trying to teach our children.
Yep.
I try to teach them, look, things are going to happen in your life. You cannot allow it to completely shift how you think, how you act. Yeah. You need to learn from it, but who do you want to be? Who are you at the core? Somebody asked me recently, who's Priya 10.0? Priya 10.0, right? Whatever that means, because I'm still trying to figure out Priya 2.0, Priya 3.0.
Yeah.
But Priya 10.0 will shift with time too, but you know what? We need to be able to define what that means. And it could be one thing today, it could be one thing tomorrow. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to take what we have now, 10x it, move on, learn from it, keep moving. But keep moving.
Yeah.
Because if you're not moving, if you stand still, the rest of the world will go forward. Mm-hmm. And perspective is not only a business thing, it's not only a life thing, it's just in general. And that's a lot of the problems that we have around the world, is a problem of perspective.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm just at a point now where I know this might sound cynical, which is counterintuitive to a power mindset, but I really do believe there's value in limiting that exposure and wasting that time. And I've come to realize with age that perspective that you speak of is one that needs to be worked on. It takes work, it takes training, it takes dedication, it takes openness, it takes to be able to receive it. And there's very few people that can do it. And there's very few people that want to do it because of whatever reasons and things that they're living through their lives. But we've all been through.
Absolutely.
Right? We've all been through bullshit. We've all had our issues. All of us. And yet it's interesting because there's some people that walk away stronger, and then there's others that walk away weaker. And I think about COVID, and I really do believe that COVID made the strong ones stronger, and it made the weaker ones weaker. And I knew that was going to happen because it was just going to expose a lot of the bullshit that was happening at that time, where it was just it wasn't sustainable to move forward. But yeah, you need the right perspective. You need to have the right people around you. You need to think big. You need to dream big. You need to be surrounded by great fucking thinkheads and minds where you're not calling each other to compete with each other. Yeah. You're not calling each other to be full of resentment. You're not there to try and keep you down and try and remind you of how I know you 15 years ago, and just relax with the suits, buddy, and all this fancy stuff you're doing. Like, I know who you are, and this is all a big. We don't need that. No, and because we know we're not those types of people. We're just being unapologetically ourselves. And sometimes you have to surround yourself with great people to make great decisions. And it's really exciting, man. Like, honestly, the chapter I'm in right now with some of the projects that I'm working on right now, especially on the real estate side, like, it's so much fun. Like, it's super growth on all levels. It's incredible. Like, it's
your goals and your strategies with real estate are going to be very, very instrumental for what's to come in the next few years, because people need to have that strategy. People. Again, I shift back on being reactive because I see it all the time, and I'm trying to educate people, not because I have to be an educator, but because I'm in that field. I'm in that world. Mm-hmm. I know what's what. I've been through the ins, I've been through the outs, I've been through good times, I've been through bad times, I've been through times where the property prices were rising and now where they're starting to dip. So you need to be able to look at what your strategy is, not only on a real estate level, on an investment level, what your 5 to 10, 15, 20-year strategy is. If it's real estate, if it's stocks.
I set my goal recently, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I set my real estate goal recently.
Care to share? Or is that private? I mean,
I don't know. It could be private, but at the same time, if I'm preaching what I'm saying, it's not a bad thing to share and put it out there. I'd like to be at 100 doors.
Okay.
In the next 4 years. I'm putting myself a 4-year runway. I'd like to be in definitely in the multiplex game. Yeah. And I also really like the 5 R's, so renovating, refinancing, repeating, and just leverage the bank's money and really get that like down to a science to be able to leverage it.
Just the bank's money you can leverage in very
there's multiple ways, but and private lenders and etc. But I really like the idea of buying a building that needs a little bit of love, a little bit of cash for keys. Get rid of that person, take the building, put some makeup on it, fundamentally make it better, have it be assessed and grow. And it's a really aggressive goal, but it's a goal that I'm really, really confident will match. I've got a great partner that I'm going to be jumping in with who's a general contractor.
Right.
So that person will be coming on board to help manage the projects that we're going to be acquiring.
That's instrumental when you're trying to do something.
Yeah. And that was a missing piece because I always bought individual buildings and individual units that were already turnkey. So the profit margin was very low, but then we took on the value of the property and not necessarily on the refinancing side. Right. But now that we have that person by our side who's equally in that mindset of growth and wants to be with us and grow with us, I think it's really going to be exciting. And you've got to put it out there. You've got to go stretch. You've got to, I know some people might be watching and say, oh, it's compared to their portfolio, but I'm not in that space. I'm not in that competition space. I'm really just about setting a goal, making it very clear what my intentions are, and it's already starting. The calls are already coming in, and the opportunities are coming in. It's Adam, like I've got this friend of mine that has this building, and like he's thinking about getting rid of it, and like he knows you personally, and like who is this? I said, no, you're kidding me. He said, no, he's giving, yeah, like he's getting rid of it right. And all these pieces, man, are just like one, and then another one, and another one, and it's just like gravitating. I don't even have to go look for it. It's just coming to me, and it reminds me very much of when I set that goal for the mortgage and clearing that off. So it's really exciting.
Well, you have to set your goals. You have to set your goals. I set my goals every single year. And sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. It will shift. I mean, I want to do different things. And the important thing is to keep that top of mind. I have these conversations a lot with people who want similar goals, not necessarily as ambitious as 100 doors within X amount of years. But, people they want to go into the real estate game. I want 20 doors. I want 30 doors. I want 10 doors. And I always tell people, okay, we can get there. There is a way to get there. Okay, but things don't happen overnight either. You have to start to, again, no pun intended, but you have to build your foundation.
Yeah, I've always said that the wider the base, the higher you can build.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. I just think in our case, we just did it.
We've been investing in real estate for years,
right? But the marquee difference for us is we never leveraged a property to buy another one.
Right.
Okay. And that, looking back at it now, might not have been the best decision, but it also created organic growth, because what I would do is I would save $40,000 or $45,000. I'd put that into an account. We'd save up to 45, and then we'd acquire property.
Right.
Then we'd start over again and then do it, because we wanted all the growth to be organic. We didn't want it to be leveraging one property 50 to buy another one. And what's happened is early on, it stunted our growth a little bit, no question, because we would have been able to leverage our properties.
Right.
But what's happened now is loan to value is roughly about 29% or 30% on those units.
Yeah.
So there is a huge chunk of change there that's sitting there. That's what we're going to use to be able to acquire our first couple of buildings on this quest to 100.
And now's the time to do it when you have that kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
Because with the interest rates the way they are, the prices are starting to tank.
Yeah.
Right. Because those kinds of loans that existed during the pandemic do not exist anymore. No. The banks have become much more conservative.
Yeah, especially the big six. Like people are looking outside the box. They're going to secondary lenders. They're paying a premium of a point or two.
There are subsidy programs, which honestly I'm against, because oftentimes, to your point, when it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true.
Yeah.
There is a catch with regards to it.
You talk about 50-year amortizations?
Well, there's 50-year amortizations right now.
95% of value.
They're trying to tell you, okay, well,
money for rentals on top of the money we're giving you for the building. Wait, hold on. But you're going to give me the money?
What's the catch? You cannot simply kick anyone out. You have to keep rent at a certain level for X amount of years.
Exactly.
Well, you got to look into that.
Yeah.
Right? And when you look at it on a long-term basis, it's not a beneficial system.
No.
And don't forget that you also need to give back a cut of your profit.
There's always a catch, man. There's always, you try and cut corners, that's what happens.
So short-term suffering for long-term growth, or long-term suffering for short-term growth.
Yeah.
It's, at the end of the day, you have to look at what you're doing, what your projects are, and when you're trying to leverage, you have to do it with a strategy. In mind.
Yeah.
And in a case like yours where you're taking other properties, I mean, that's really the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Is to, okay, I'm going to take what I have, I'm just going to keep reinvesting it in what I know.
Yeah.
And
it's really important. Like, it's really important to do something. One of the most important lessons I've come to learn in entrepreneurship and investment is you need to invest in things you know. If you are not going to know or be a majority shareholder, it's okay to not know when you're minority.
Yeah.
And you're not involved in day to day. Because you're actually not investing in a company, you're investing in somebody else. I'm invested in 3 different companies in a minority role, and I never even looked at their books. I looked at the people I was investing in. And I'm like, I know you. I know what you're capable of, and I know this company will blow up. So it's a minor risk. I take a little bit of equity. I put the equity there. We're good. But you have to invest in what you know. and movies and launching this production studio, it was exactly that. It was a no-brainer for me to launch it. It was a no-brainer for me to be able to do it. It's something I've always wanted to do and call something my own. But again, you invest in what you know. You invest in I know every detail of cinema. I know every detail of movie making. I know every actor. I know every location. I know every camera. I know every mic. Like, I know every detail of this, and it's the only way I would ever put my money behind it. Because anything under that, I'm basically rolling the dice.
You know, all of us have our specialties, right?
Yeah.
And then you've been so active in one world. I mean, obviously, in anything that we have to be able to leverage even our skills with regards to what our long-term projects are, whether it's for a business venture or even personal growth or whatever the case is. You're able to use that past, you know, or even your present, because I know that you're still doing a lot of these projects, right? With that
crazy,
with your studio,
crazy.
Oh
my God, it's crazy.
Honestly, I have a lot of respect for that.
Thanks, man.
It's really great to have you here.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate the time, and it was really cool to come out. I will always support someone that is, you know, leaving their comfort zone. I'll always support, because it's great to witness in real time. It's great to be in this energy of like knowing that somebody's taking a risk. So many times people wait to build their wings before they take the jump, and then you have others that just jump and build it on their way down. And I think it's really important that we do that.
You learn, right?
And you learn as you go. You learn. It's going to get better and better. You know, you'll learn the topics, and you'll know. You know, you'll get more comfortable. But the podcast, real quick, for people who are watching at home, the podcast is not what's important. I think what's most important is you're taking a leap of faith. You're trusting yourself. That's the energy I want to be in. I want to be around people that are taking these risks, that are willing to just go against the grain, that don't give a shit about what people think.
No.
You know, I just don't care anymore, and be myself unapologetically. Real quick, before we close up, I wanted to share this story with you because I think it's really important. When I was an actor, and now that I launched Reid Frame Studios, that is basically a platform for short films, and we distribute online in the social media space. And I act in some of these. Because sometimes a role. Have you? Yeah. And I'm a bastard in a lot of these. Like, I don't know why they keep casting. They keep casting these. I'm like, bro, I'm not a bad guy. Like, I channel into.
But you could play one.
I could play one.
I'd rather be with someone who could play a bad guy.
Yeah. Like, exactly. So I end up doing these roles, and when I'm doing these roles recently, everybody's coming up to me like, man, like, I saw this film, I saw what you did, and like, fuck, you do it so well. And I started thinking back about my career as an actor.
Yeah.
And started wondering, because I always landed recurring roles, I always landed supporting roles, a few guest stars, but never the lead role. And I could never figure out why I never landed this lead role, because I was so close on so many occasions. And what I've come to realize is that on my platform and on our channel, I am unapologetically myself.
Right.
Because I really don't give a shit what anybody thinks about my performance, or nor do I care, or do I have to answer to anybody, because I pencil myself into my own roles, and that's the luxury I've earned by building and putting my sweat in, my sweat equity. And it got me thinking about maybe one of the reasons why I never got to where I needed to go as an actor was because I was always worried about what the casting director was thinking. Right. And always busy giving them what I thought they wanted. And I think we make that mistake as people. We make that mistake as human beings, that we constantly try and give society, without even knowing it, what we think society wants us to be, versus really living our lives unapologetically and giving everybody the royal finger and being like, I really don't care what you have to say. And that comes back to that diary entry, which is like, I do this for me, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is why I'm doing it. And this has no relationship with how you interpret it. There is no correlation between how I live my life and what you think of me living my life. What's most important is, how am I living my life, and am I being true to myself? So I'm really curious. I reached out to an agent recently that I think would do a great job representing me, and I said, I think it's time I dive back in as an actor, because I'm actually genuinely interested in being that unapologetic side or person in that audition room, and my entire goal is to destabilize the casting director. So I think more and more people need to do that, and it's really great to see you do that. It's great for you to take these chances, own it, and invite people on like myself onto your show. Big congratulations to you.
It's a good time. Thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And it's, if there's anything that we want to take from having, this episode, this session today, it's that. And that's extremely important, because even when I started this on my first episode, I was like trying to be more PC. I was trying not to pronounce myself on certain subjects. I was, and with time, even though it's not that long ago, I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
People know me, people know who I am. And that's, again, I want to be real with what you see on camera. What you see is what you get. I think I've been able to deliver that for a long time in general, all of the other stuff I've done. And I think I'm going to continue to do that. It's really great having you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. You've always been a great guy. You've always been a great champ.
Always had good times together.
Yeah, and I think
do more of it.
Yeah, I think it's a shame that we don't do it more often. But on the flip side, it's also understandable with what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're building, what it is that I'm doing, and what I'm building. And I think that's where respect comes in, and that's the respect I have for you, and the respect I have for us to be here early on in the process.
And that's the difference, is that we can go on 1 year without seeing each other, 2 years without seeing each other. And when we see each other, it's like nothing's changed.
Yeah. Welcome. Thanks for inviting me. Make sure you subscribe to this channel.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you give it, right?
That's what I forget.
Should we give you one of these closings? Should I give you a closing on camera? Should I give you one of those?
I don't know. What would the closing be?
The closing would be, hey, everyone, welcome to PA Podcast. I'm Adam Reid. I'm catching up with Perea. You don't want to miss it. We're talking real estate, life, business, mindset growth. Make sure to click the follow button for more. We'll see you soon.